Fringe Investigations, a podcast exploring topics on the fringe of this reality, including cryptids, paranormal, parascience, UFOs, conspiracies, and other unconventional phenomena. This is a collaborative effort of the Asheville Cryptid Society, M&D Paranormal, and Red Blue Theory. You can find us at www.fringeinvestigations.com. Ready?
Ready when you are.
Welcome to Fringe Investigations. I am your host, the Cryptid Guy, and with me, as always, are Tiny and Slim. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Tiny's paranormal evidence. And my friends, when you see this evidence on our YouTube channel, if you're not a believer in the paranormal, you will be after this. So, Tiny, let's go ahead and start. Our first piece of evidence is a thermo image of Mary's foot. Would you care to explain that, my friend?
Certainly. So this footage comes from a place called Picture Perfect. It's a hair salon where our shop resides in Marion, North Carolina. They're wonderful women. It's a great feeling place. The energy there is great. We've investigated there probably 5 or 6 times, if we've investigated once. We have had a few pieces of good stuff, and this is one of my favorites because it showcases the thermal. And thermal, it's fascinating in general. But as you're looking at this image, what makes it fascinating, the camera's still, and that is Mary and Tess on the couch. They are doing a EVP session in the main lobby area of the shop. Mary is the one closest to the camera, and if you look down where her foot would be, you see movement. When we go through our evidence, the first thing that we do is try and debunk all of our evidence, which is exactly what we did here. My first thought when I saw that movement was, oh, well, she just moved her foot, which would be a perfect example of debunking. We went back and we looked at the DVR footage. And the interesting thing is she's barefoot, which would mean that if that was her foot, it would be as hot as the red marks. It would be as hot as the body. And whatever you see there is obviously cold.
Yeah, it's a completely different color. You can see the movement. I mean, that's definitely something moving. Slim, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's really weird. So, I mean, obviously, like, extremities are going to be a little bit colder, right, than your core heat. But that movement, it's just so weird. Was there nothing, and there was nothing obstructing between her and the camera?
No, in this place, it's very small, and when we took this footage, it was summer, and it was incredibly hot. We had everything, we had all the electrical turned off, so there was no air movement. It was, honestly, it was difficult to be in there.
It almost looks like something's grabbing for her.
Yeah, did you have any kind of physical sensation when this was happening?
Not that I'm aware of.
Interesting.
Let me ask you this. In all your research with thermo, and we've all used thermo. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I mean, right. We used thermo on the Vance Monument to see that it was actually radiating energy, and we did that over a year. So, I mean, you and I did that, so we have experience with thermo. I've never seen, I mean, and you said it was hot in here, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
When you look at the temperature, you can see Mary's foot, you can see the outline of the body heat, you see the extremities. This is in the green, which means it's significantly colder. So, like, paranormally, when you talk about, cold spots and things like this, I think you picked up on a cold spot or maybe even a cold vortex right here. That's what I personally think that is, because the way in which that's moving, I mean, it almost looks like it's a hand grabbing.
Well, I personally hesitate to use the word vortex in any investigation. However, that does bring up an interesting point about this particular salon. And one of the first things we noticed when we went in there, Slim, you've been in there with us.
I have, yeah.
Is you walk in, there's 3 mirrors on each side directly across from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of opens everything up. And we did find out that there was I believe it was a Civil War general that was murdered outside this place back when it was a depot drink stand. It used to be a bar that served railroad workers. And personally, I believe that it's still a thoroughfare.
Well, and I've said this before, and I think we all agree on this. The older a building is, the more time it has to absorb paranormal energy or energy of any kind. And if if something truly in fact did happen there that left that kind of paranormal signature, I mean, I think that's perfect evidence of that's something. There's something definitely happening paranormal here. I think we can all agree on that.
It does look like something's trying to reach up and touch Mary's foot, and it looks very, very cold.
Our second piece of incredible evidence that Tiny provided to us is the ball moving. Would you care to comment on where and how you got this evidence? Because this is incredible.
This evidence comes from a investigation. We took our entire group to the St. Albans Sanatorium, which is notorious. It's a notoriously haunted place, and by the way, it's much, much larger than what I anticipated it to be. And again, very, very hot.
How big was it?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you square footage, but we were there, I would say, 8 to 9 hours that night, and we probably explored a quarter of it.
This place is massive.
It's massive.
That investigation was so fun.
Again,
it was so
Slim was
fun.
there with us.
Yeah, I think that was my very first investigation with M&D.
Yeah.
And now, is this where you were sneaking up on people and scaring them?
I mean, that's what people were saying.
Yes. Yeah, that's what you did. Okay.
Tess, our other member, she got scared at least 4 times because Slim would just appear out of the darkness and
I
say hi.
announced to myself.
I get to see that. Purposely doing that, creeping around, pulling the Scooby-Doo.
It was a great location, and there was a lot going on there. So
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me that you got this amazing piece of poltergeist.
So
evidence.
how paranormal of a hotspot are we talking here? Is this something that you think if you go there every time you're going to find something different, or is this just a fluke that you actually got this evidence?
Well, we have other team members that have been there several times and have had great experiences. I myself, when we went in there, I didn't expect anything to happen because I didn't feel anything. It was a creepy old building, a really cool space to investigate, but I expected nothing. And to be honest, I didn't experience anything, and our other people did that was with us. But going over the evidence, this is one of the best pieces that we found.
Yeah, what else was really cool is this is one of those notorious U.S. haunted locations
Yes.
where they're constantly having stuff happening. They're constantly having evidence caught, and M&D had it exclusively for an entire night. It was just the M&D team, which is also a really special opportunity.
Well, that is awesome. So give me a little history about this St. Albans Sanatorium.
Obviously, it was a sanatorium, and it was a boys' school at one point, and I'm not sure at what point those got mixed up together. But again, this place it's massive. It was incredibly hot. There's no power anywhere. I've never had to run so many extension cords. The only power that we had was in the gift shop. So we ran extension cords to everywhere we could reach. Huge amounts of extension cords.
Yeah.
And this particular room here is deemed Jacob's room. Jacob was a young boy that was living there when it was a sanatorium. And back then, obviously, they weren't as concerned as they are today about who cohabitates. So across the hall from this child was an evil man. He attacked and eventually killed this young boy in this room. And this room is a notorious hotspot in St. Albans. You can see from the video that there's a lot of toys and people leave pennies as well. So, typical fashion, people leave gifts for him. And this footage was taken just on a DVR camera. We are in there, and I cropped the image to show the footage. But there's 2 investigators in there, and they're doing an EVP session with a spirit box. What drew our eye to this particular piece of footage is we saw another one where a ball really just energetically moved. Well, it turns out that was one of us caused that. And that's what I go back to the debunking that we always try to do. So we kept watching, and our eye was caught by this black, mass that goes across. I hesitate to call it an orb because I don't feel like it's an orb. I've been told that that's a dark one. And you see my air parentheses here. and that's a rare catch. However, behind that, you see in the very corner, you see a ball, and it just moves on its own. You can clearly see that nothing happened, and again, there is absolutely no air in this place. Slim, you can testify to that.
It was so hot. It was so miserable.
So you've got stagnant air. It's humid. It's hot. Nothing's moving. There's no way. There's no ceiling fans. There's no air to be moved at all.
And no one's walking around either.
No one's walking around, so there's no movement. There's no vibrations. There's nothing to cause any kind of movement, and yet you still manage to catch this piece of foot. That is creepy. That, and especially from being in a small kid's room. Yeah, that to me, that's always it's always the saddest, especially when something nasty befalls someone. But it's always the saddest when it's a kid's room. And was there anything else you ever left in there? Or I mean, were you leaving things in there to see if Jacob would pick stuff up or play with it? Or
yeah, we had a teddy bear with us with a proximity sensor in it that we left in there and got no results. And then like that, it was just this single piece of footage. There was some other team members that had some personal experiences around both of these rooms.
Yeah, I was kind of blown away in that room. I had been obviously walking around the whole house all night, and when I had sat down to spend some time specifically in this room with Jacob, that was, I think, the third time ever in my life I was seeing light orbs with my own eyes, and it was blowing me away so much that I actually asked another team member, I think it was Mary actually, that came in, and I just said, can you just verify that this isn't like cars going by? Are you seeing them?
So were there windows in this room?
There was a window, but it was boarded up.
So boarded up window, and you're seeing light orbs. What color were they? You remember?
They were white.
So just white light orbs. And this was verified by Mary?
It was verified by Mary.
For those of you who don't know, Mary is also one of the investigators at MND Paranormal. And she definitely knows what she's looking at. So that was verified by Mary.
Yep, and we also later took another night vision camera. And again, orbs are hard when you see them on night vision cameras to verify or not, but we were getting anomalies. So, and again, this is one of those things where it was my personal experience, so was it a shared experience, and how can that be validated? I mean, I was in there, and I know there's definitely something going on in that room.
All right, so you're a paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
Your gut feeling about this room, how, a scale from 1 to 10, how haunted we talking here?
Ooh, I mean, that's difficult to say. I mean, paranormal activity always kind of comes in bursts.
Right.
Right, so you'll experience a flurry of activity and then you won't. How spaced out those bursts are can be, weeks or months or hours or minutes. It really all depends on what is happening. And obviously, if we knew more about those variables, we would be much better investigators, right? Because we could predict it.
Okay, so give me a number.
From my personal experience, I would put it at an 8 or a 9, only because there were several times I was in that room and I had several personal experiences.
Okay. Personally, myself, I wasn't even there. Just by this footage, I'm going 9. That footage is incredible. Tiny, you're the professional here when it comes to the paranormal realm. How haunted are we here? Scale 1 to 10.
Well, I mean that's physical movement from
exactly.
something in there. So that's that's a high number. I would say 8, 9, somewhere in there. It's a high number.
And I only asked that question because I want the listeners to hear our opinion from seasoned paranormal investigators on how active and what good evidence this is. And doing that numeral scale, to me, that's always a good way of doing it. And I personally think that when the viewers see this, they're going to agree with us. This is incredible evidence.
Well, that's something that's also unique about this investigation versus some of the other evidence that we just showed with Mary's foot and that we're going to show later in the podcast, is that this was an investigation which was kind of unique to M&D because this is a known haunted location, and we went there specifically to perfect skills and collect evidence. This wasn't M&D's normal investigations where we're helping people. We don't know if it's haunted or not. It's more of like a research thing.
It was almost like a team building exercise.
Exactly. So this was kind of a much different mission than normal.
You did a great job, and you came back with some really good evidence. So our next piece of evidence, our third piece of evidence, is the Maca Stick Man, and this is some crazy evidence. I think when people see this, they're going to think, what is this? So, Tiny, I need you to explain in detail what you took this evidence with, how it works, and then what exactly we're looking at here.
All right, so I'll start out with where we're at. Maca is an old building in Marion where our shop and where M&D is based out of. They've been very generous to us. We've investigated several times. We've taken ticketed investigations in there where we've had groups, and you have artists there. They create things. They do plays. They do all sorts of stuff there. The energy there is great. And again, Slim, you've been there with us, I believe.
I was actually the one taking this video.
Oh, well, yeah, good point.
Yeah, she was there.
So we've had experience on top of experience on top of experience in this place. And when we've had the ticketed investigations there, everybody has walked away with an experience. So in this particular evidence here is actually a piece of video from Slim's phone taken on my computer that is using an SLS camera. And basically what you're looking at, you've got two screens on my computer. On the left side is a 3D mapping camera. On the right side is a depth perception camera. And the depth perception camera's new that we're using. You may have seen the stick figure cams on the big ghost shows. There are flaws with this camera. Let me go ahead and start out with that. There are flaws with it. That's why mine is stationary and not mobile, because they will see, just like this, they'll see chairs, they'll see...
They'll matrix.
Yeah, they'll matrix. They'll see coat racks, lamps, things like that as people. All right? So let me go ahead and get that out of the way. I know there are flaws with them. Mine's stationary for that reason. When they're mobile, they're worse to do it. In this case, this is also the first time that we've caught anything on this camera, which makes it exciting for us. So you see, Slim has the camera. She's taking the video. This is one of our investigators, Brandon, out in front. And they're obviously doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're trying to figure out why this is happening. So your first thought is, oh, it's just picking up the chair, right? That was my first thought. And Slim and I have some differing opinions on this.
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you why I think it's legit. You see the figure in the chair, all right, which wholeheartedly could be the chair. I will agree with that. However, what changes my mind that it's possible is when Brandon walks in front of it. You see him walk in front. You see his stick figure come up, and he does his thing, and then when he walks away, the stick figure sitting in the chair is gone.
Well, it actually looked like the little stick figure was hitting him, like smacking him out of the way.
It might have been. Well, we've had some experiences in there with a female entity.
Well, you had experiences with that exact chair, right?
I did, yes.
Right.
I mean, it almost looks like he's getting ready to foot loose and dance here in the beginning.
Well,
I mean, it looks like
and there again, we believe that one of the entities there is an actor. So,
well, can I...
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna interject because I'm still not entirely convinced with this piece of evidence. I'll be honest.
How can you not be? Look at it. It's got movement. It's got like a little arm moving here.
Well, here's
well,
what
that happened.
happened.
His foot.
That is common.
Here's what happened. This was actually a setup for one of the M&D ticketed investigations, because you guys have investigated this location many times and have gotten great success with evidence there. So we were actually kind of setting up a station for some of the people to come and view. And Brandon was bringing up these chairs, right? And so he specifically brought one where you had captured like anomalies in before, and this other chair. But when he was walking up with them, I just happened to be sitting in front of the camera and saw this figure. And I said, what? Or actually, I think Brandon even saw it first. He put it down and he said, you gotta come over here, gotta check this out. So then the first thing we try to do is start to debunk. That's actually this clip, is I'm like, okay, well, walk in front of it, see if you can get it to go, see if you can get it to go away. And after this clip, we spent probably about 30 minutes, like sitting in the chair, trying to make the same pose that the stick figure was making. What would that look like? Why would he be there? We took the chairs away, and he walked back up with the chairs in the same way, which originally triggered the stick figure to materialize, and to see if we could create that stick figure again. And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, it's questionable. It makes it a little bit more probable that it might be verified because you've had a history with this chair. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the chair, the very nature of it, kind of looks like a person. So I don't know.
Well, had it continued to pick up that stick figure after Brandon left, I would say, yeah, it's just a chair. We'd never be talking about it. But the fact that it never comes back.
I mean, look at it. He's dancing. I'm telling you.
It's weird, right? He's got like his hands
he looks
up.
Like
he
looks like he's about to go all footloose. He's going to dance around the whole area.
Well, now, one of the other experiences that we have had with this particular chair, a mist appearing in this chair. And in one of them, it looks very distinctly like a woman looking back over the chair, looking at us.
So here's what I want to know. Tiny, how relevant is this to paranormal investigation? Is this legitimate? You think this is 100%? Or is it some kind of manifestation in between? Or is it something we should just look at and say, we don't know?
Well, before I answer that question, what do you mean legitimate? 100%
I mean, it's
legitimate?
okay. I personally believe this is paranormal. That's my belief. Because look at this. At this part right here, it looks like when your guy, it was Brandon?
Yeah.
It looks like when Brandon walks in front of it, it gets upset and almost starts hitting him, getting him out of the way. That's what that to me looks like. All right, to me that looks like a legitimate entity. All right, but then again, you're talking about this being on a stick cam and it might be something else. I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge about stick cams, but to me that looks 100% legitimate. I mean, go ahead, Slim.
I was gonna say this is still questionable evidence for me. This is still questionable. Having been there, and again, we had an amazing night that night. We did have other evidence come up, but this one, I don't know. I'm still questionable.
I'm going to say, with it being my own evidence, my own equipment, I'm going to say that's probably about 90% legitimate, because there's always,
I understand,
always that space
Mm-hmm.
for the unknown. And we do know that the camera has flaws. However, this is the first time that we've ever gotten anything that could even be close to paranormal activity with that camera, with the stick figure camera. Now, with the depth perception camera, we've had some interesting things that I cannot reproduce.
Those are insane. Those are really cool. The ones you had on the depth of field one, that I've never seen before on any evidence show or anything.
Well, like I said, my personal opinion is that's legitimate, and I think Tiny thinks it's legitimate. It's just one of those things where, again, it falls into that factor. Let the viewer make their own decisions. Our last piece of evidence are what we call the footsteps, and this is my favorite evidence. Tiny, why don't you explain to us what this is and how you got it?
So, this location, we can't disclose where it is because confidentiality is of utmost importance. The people that we helped in this case, it was an emergent situation. They've been kind enough to allow us to use this footage just because they said this is too good not to share. But they didn't want any identifiers out there. That's why this video is cropped. When we went into this place, we cleansed first. We cleansed the crap out of this place. So when this investigation happened, I really didn't expect anything to happen. I expected nothing. And going through the evidence, boom, here we've got this. And it's almost like a coup de grace for us thus far. And it's footsteps. The reported activity, most of the reported activity happened in this area. The strongest reported activity happens in this area. And again, I didn't expect anything to happen. Toward the end of the investigation, Slim and I were doing some energy work just to see, what we could do, if we could help it out, if we could feel anything. And these footsteps actually walk from this starting area right up behind Slim. Now, Slim, how do you feel about footsteps walking up behind you?
When I first saw this piece of evidence, I was absolutely blown away because I was there and like Tiny said, I'm sitting basically just out of frame to the left of this clip. So you'll see like this one light anomaly like kind of come down in the middle there and kind of disappear on the right lower hand corner of the screen. And then all of a sudden you'll start to see these like very clear on the ground footsteps that start from half behind that wall in that dark area kind of in the middle of the screen and are walking straight to the lower left hand corner. And as a part of the in-doc before we did the investigation, one of the things that was mentioned was footsteps. So what was really cool is like we went in there without an expectation, but with that information that this was something that happened in the location, and then we captured exactly what they had told from the location that they said they come from to the location that they said they go to. It was an exact verification. And then not only that, we captured this evidence twice. We can't show you the second clip because it reveals too much of the location in the area, but we actually, like, very shortly after this, I think like maybe a couple minutes
after
we captured this one, we captured the footsteps again coming from the same spot, but walking slightly more to the left and actually going right under to where I was sitting. So to me, this is like the most validating, mind-blowing piece of paranormal evidence, one, that I've ever seen, and two, that I've been a part of. So I know how legit this is, and I know how insane this is. So for me, you know, I have a very long way to answer your question. I'm like blown away. Like, I was there, this happened, this is real, oh my gosh.
I think if you don't believe in the paranormal and you watch this, you're definitely going to be a believer, because there's no trickery, there's no lighting, there's no effects, there's no special effects, there's nothing. This is actually happening, and we've got witnesses. It's on tape, and not only does it happen, it happens twice, and we've got people that were there can verify it. I mean, to me, this is probably some of the best paranormal evidence I've ever seen. I mean, hands down. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Tony. To me, that's a 10 all day.
Well, I'm pretty proud of it.
You should
I gotta
be.
say, I mean, the next step would be a full body apparition.
Yeah.
Which I can't wait till we catch that.
Eventually.
Yeah. It'll
See,
happen.
I did an investigation with Tiny on this building too, and there was other things that happened besides these footsteps, and there was manifestations in different places, and Tiny's got this innate ability to scare off paranormal activity.
Yeah, he does.
He walks into a room. We were in this other room in the back of this building, and I was witnessing shadows and there was no lighting. There's no way these shadows could have come out of anywhere. And Tiny walks in, and it's like he walks in and they just kind of disappeared. I mean, she scared him away. So this building to me was definitely a hot spot, and the fact that these footsteps happened not only once but twice, just phenomenal evidence. There's nothing else can be said of it. This is the coup de grace.
Well, we were getting other evidence of this location too.
Yeah, we had some spirit box hits, some, I believe some EVPs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was also the mirror issue too. Remember?
Yeah. There was the history here is a little bit sordid and probably one of the more complicated cases we've been on. I wish we could share more about it. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience, and I have checked back in with these people since we've been there, and like I said, it was an emergent situation. Like, they were legitimately kind of in trouble, and I've checked back with them. I guess the last time had been 6 months since we've done this investigation, and they say they're still clear.
Well, I mean, you did your job. You did what you said you were going to do. You helped. And again, let's talk about M&D Paranormal. When M&D Paranormal goes in to help a place, Tiny, what do you guys charge?
We don't.
There you go.
We ask for donations if they're able. If we do cleansing or anything like that, we ask, for payment for the supplies. But that's not
But you
much.
don't have a flat fee. You don't go and say this is going to cost you X amount.
No.
See, that's one of the cool things about Tiny's organization. Again, Tiny goes in to help people. M&D Paranormal go in to help people in a realm of possibilities. There's very bleak outlook when paranormal activity has decided to manifest somewhere, and Tiny and his I guess team, for lack of a better word, go in there and they actually clear these entities out, and they go in and help, and they charge nothing for it. And I think that's just speaks so much to the character of M&D Paranormal, and I think that's just some of the coolest things you guys do.
Well, when Mary and I founded M&D, we never expected a hobby to take us to the places that it's taken us, to meet the people that we've met, to have the experiences that we've had. We've had some amazing experiences. We helped a man in Mississippi. We got called to Mississippi. Mm-hmm. We helped a man there communicate with his dead wife. I mean, that was probably one of the most powerful investigations we've done. And it's been amazing.
And I just want to add to what Cryptic Guy was saying too. I mean, I'd had, some paranormal experiences throughout my life. You're into the woo-woo, you come across this stuff, but I've never actually worked with a paranormal investigating group. Like, my only exposure to that was what you might see on TV or whatever. And having worked with you and the rest of M&D has just really blown my mind open as to how valuable your service is. People are out there having real issues with paranormal energies and having real problems, and especially if they're not in the woo-woo fringe sphere and it's completely foreign to them, it's really traumatizing. And Tiny has a way of coming in making everyone self-assured, and then they have all the tools and equipment to do whatever they need to be more comfortable or to alleviate the situation on both this side of reality and in the paranormal reality. So
well, I'm blessed to be surrounded by such a good group of people that want to help, that have had experiences, that have understandings beyond what your average person would in regards to the paranormal. Every one of us brings something different to the table, and it works. It's such a blessing. That's why we hold the gatherings at our shop in Marion. We have that brick and mortar shop in Marion, and we have this idea of sharing with people and letting people share with us, just to help, to have somebody to go to and say, look, I had this experience. What do you think? And not feel like I'm going to tell this person and think I'm crazy.
Right. Well, I'm excited. I know that just these pieces of evidence that we've decided to highlight for this episode are like the tip of the iceberg, because I've seen some of the other evidence you captured, some of the evidence that you can't share, unfortunately, because most of that is under that confidentiality. Yeah. But even some stuff that I hope, we have time to talk about in the future. And then obviously as you're still doing them, investigations moving forward. So there
will be more, and I hope they just get better.
They will. Well, I know they're going to get better. I don't think we're going to be able to top the footsteps.
Oh, we're going to top it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That one to me, that is just the best. That is the bomb. So, Slim, how does this evidence fit into the fringe category for you?
Well, for me, this is one of the most approachable fringe things. I like to call, being the woo-woo kid and being on kind of the outer sphere of the fringe, so to speak, like cryptid stuff and paranormal stuff. Whenever you can capture evidence that is empirical, right? Like, look, there is a video. We are showing it to you now on the screen. We can't tell you what it is. You can look at it and you can try and figure it out, but you can't, because how the heck would that happen? Like, to me, this is fringe in its most accessible form. Like, this is something that you can show somebody who may not believe in the fringe, or may have heard about this stuff, and I can tell you right now, if you were there on that investigation with us and witnessed this yourself, you would go from a non-believer to believer. So,
Tiny, how does this evidence fit into the fringe category for you?
Well, I have to agree with Slim. Even though the paranormal is more normal and accepted nowadays, there's still a stigma. There's still a fear. There's still irrational thoughts about the paranormal. There's still non-understanding. And not to say that I myself or my team has any greater understanding than anybody else. We're trying to figure out. That's why we research. We want to know. This could be 1,000 different things. We may not even be, looking at a ghost. We could be looking at somebody in another dimension. We could be looking at, God only knows. That's why we research. We want to find out. But it's abnormal. And the fringe is about the abnormal.
That's where we live our lives. I personally believe that this evidence fits into the fringe category as evidence of the paranormal. Maybe different form of energy, maybe a different form of life. I mean, I don't know, but it's definite paranormal evidence. Does anyone have any closing comments?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind is in showing evidence, we're not here trying to tell somebody what it is. We're handing it to the viewer and saying, make your own decision.
That's what we do with everything. Every one of us has a different investigation technique, style, and group, for that matter. But we all agree that we just show evidence and let people make their own decisions. And I think we do that in the cryptid world, we do that in the woo-woo world, and we definitely do it in the paranormal world. Well, that is going to be it for us for this show. This will be... I don't even know where I was going with that.
Okay.
Oops. So, that'll be it for us tonight. Stay tuned, and remember, keep believing. I'm your host, The Cryptid Guy, and with me always are Tiny and Slim. Keep it fringy. Good night. Thanks for listening to Fringe Investigations. If you would like to share your evidence, a personal story, comment on an episode, or if you are interested in being a guest on our show, find all of our information on www.fringeinvestigations.com, including contact information and free downloads. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, and remember, keep believing.